Hi, in this video we're going to go over the sources for court rules, including rules of professional conduct and evidence law on Lexis Advanced. So we're going to do the same thing we did on Westlaw. We're going to scroll, but of course, just like on Westlaw and Lexis, you could narrow your search ahead of time by using the Search Everything tab. Click on that, and then you could narrow down to Massachusetts, and then in the category, if you're looking for court rules, you're going to want to put statutes and legislation, which is where the court rules reside on Lexis. But we're going to scroll, so let's go back to the main menu. And we're going to scroll to Massachusetts and look at the legislative materials. And you can see once we're in Massachusetts and under statutes and legislation, we have access not just to the annotated laws of Massachusetts and the Constitution, we also have the Mass state and federal court rules, and we could add this to our search, but I'm going to look at the table of contents so you can see what's available on Lexis. Which you'll see it's about the same as what we saw on Westlaw. So we have the general rules at the top again, the rules of civil, criminal, and appellate procedure, the Massachusetts Guide to Evidence, and then they've organized the rules. Instead of having a long list with all the rules listed individually, they have them by court. So all the rules for the Supreme Judicial Court here, all the Superior Court rules here, etc. Let's take a look at the Massachusetts Rules of Civil Procedure, just so you can compare how they look on Lexis from what we looked at on Westlaw. And again, we're going to look at Rule 7. And we're looking at Rule 7, Pleadings Allowed and Forms of Motion. So again, this is an annotated version of the court rules, but on Westlaw, we clicked on the top for the case notes. On Lexis, if you scroll to the bottom, you have all the annotations, including the reporter's notes, so that's the commentary on the rule, as well as, if you keep scrolling, the case notes and secondary sources that would be included in the print version of this publication for Lexis. Additionally, we can also shepherdize this document. So we can key cite on Westlaw, or we could shepherdize on Lexis. And just like when we shepardized statutes on Lexis, when we shepherdize court rules, we're offered several different alternatives, and this is based on how the court cited it in the cases that are citing to the court rule. So, for example, we can look at the citations that are to Rule 7, we can look at the citations that are to Rule 7a, we can look at the citations that are to Rule 7b, and so this is a feature that we have on Shepherds that we don't have on KeyCite. Again, you're going to want to check to see how current it is. On Lexis, this database is only as current as June 1st, 2015, so it's getting to be a little bit dated, and you definitely want to check if there were any amendments that you wanted to know about. And in the history, we can tell when this particular rule was last updated. So even though the database is up to date through October of 2015, this particular rule was last amended in 1981. Okay, I just want to go back out and show you that just like when we were on Westlaw, there are more than just the court rules here. There are also the standing orders and guidelines. So if we look, for example, under what's under the Superior Court, we can see that there's rules of the Superior Court, the Appellate Division of the Superior Court, there's standing orders and other rules or forms that could be helpful here for research if we're doing a procedural issue that affects something in the Superior Court. So that was some general information about how to navigate in the court rules on Lexis. Let's take a look at the rules of professional conduct, which you know from the prior videos are part of the SJC rules. And we will look at the rules of the SJC. And it's here in Chapter 3 that we want to go. And we want to be in Rule 307, Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct. And you can see they're organized by the categories of the rules. Let's take a look at the one that we had looked at on Westlaw 3.14. 1.14, client with diminished capacity. So a lot of the features are going to be really similar. We can shepherdize this document. We get archived code versions. We get the text of the rule itself as well as annotations. But one thing that I want to show you is one difficulty with shepardizing the rules of professional conduct on Lexis. So let's just shepardize this document and I'll show you what I mean. See how this one is Rule 1.14? Well, that feature that can be really helpful where you can shepardize by particular sections actually can be a little bit detrimental on Lexis. So we can shepardize all of Rule 307, but then if we want to get to the particular section we're interested in, the particular rule, 1.14, we have to scroll down and everything's on the same screen. So if you're looking at section 1. Rule 1.1 or Rule 1.10, it's okay, but if you need to get to Rule 6.14, it's difficult because it's going to be several screens in and it's hard to get to. You can see here it's not, we're getting 1.10, we still have to go several screens in to get Rule 1.14. So this can be why it's difficult to shepardize the rules of professional conduct on Lexis. Okay, I've just navigated back out to the table of contents. Let's take a quick look at the Massachusetts Guide to Evidence here. And I'm going to look at just section 604 because it's a short section. It's easy to read. Some of them are quite long. And one thing that you'll notice is we do get case annotations. But for this particular document, the Guide to Evidence, there's no Shepard's results on Lexis. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But we do get the text of the, I won't call it a rule exactly because as you know in Massachusetts we don't have a set of rules, but the statement by the SJC about interpreters with the notes that follow about where it's derived from. In this case, it looks like it's derived from the Federal Rule of Evidence as well as case law in Massachusetts. Before we leave Lexis, I just wanted to mention a few secondary sources that might be helpful for doing research for issues that have to do with court rules or evidence in Massachusetts that are particular to Lexis. So let's again browse to Massachusetts material and we'll look at the secondary sources. So I'm just going to look at all of the sources right now. And you'll see that, of course, we have all those MCLE treatises. So similar to the treatises that we have on Westlaw, you know they're on Westlaw, Lexis, and Bloomberg Law. But there are a couple of specific treatises that are only available on LexisNexis that might be helpful, including some of the LexisNexis, excuse me while I scroll down, practice guides. So there are a whole bunch of these practice guides, but some of them are particular to, for example, appellate procedure or civil trial practice or criminal law. So these could be very helpful for rules practice in Massachusetts. And there are some other Matthew Bender type treatises. One that I picked out is called Suppression Matters Under Massachusetts Law. This is a great guide if you're doing criminal work. And you need to know about suppression matters, obviously. And this would be really useful. Let's just open the table of contents real quick for particular types of evidentiary issues. So you can see there's things about the exclusionary rule and search warrants and things like that in this particular treatise. Finally, I wanted to talk about getting to the ABA materials on Lexis. The way that I get to them, there's several different ways, but let's just look at, when I get out to the main search box, hold on one second. Okay, so the way that I get to it is I start typing ABA, for example, formal ethics opinions, and then I can add that to my search here. I can also look for the ABA informal ethics opinions and then add it to my search as well. So that's just a couple of the sources I thought would be useful for you on Lexis.